about 8,000 teeth in this pond beneath you and me right now. But, you know, looking around this pond, I'm not seeing 100 alligators. Looking around, I'm only seeing probably about 50, maybe 60 of them up on the surface. So that means there's probably about the same number of those guys that you can't see. And that's because these guys can disappear. Now, I'm not talking throwing down smoke balls and vanishing like ninjas, but it is pretty close. They'll get about 2 to 3 inches underneath the water, and you just don't see them anymore. Now, you couple this with the fact alligators have been known to hold their breaths up to 8 hours at a time. There could be a whole day going by, they're playing some jaws music at the bottom of the pond, just to kind of wait for one of us to take a swim with them. These guys, they're all American alligators, and an American alligator comes from... Yeah, America, that is right. They will come from North America, to be specific. And every alligator in this pond is just a baby. They are all actually between the ages of 2 and 5 years old. Now, coincidentally, you can tell how old our alligators are just by looking at them. For the first 6 years of development, they will grow an average of a foot a year. So you're going to range from 2 feet, kind of like, let's see here. Yeah, these two guys right there, those guys are right around 2, maybe 2.5 feet. So that puts them right around 2 to 2.5 years old. All the way up to that bigger guy right behind him. That one right next to him, he's probably around 4.5, almost 5 feet. So that puts him somewhere around 4.5 to 5 years old. Now, I will tell you that even though they're babies, they are no less dangerous. The smallest alligators in our pond, like I said, those cute little 2-foot guys, they're just kind of adorable, right? You don't want to kind of go down there for a minute, hang out with them, maybe take a swim. Well, those little 2-foot alligators can already produce upwards of 300 pounds per square inch of bite force. Now, that would be like me walking into your kitchen, picking up your refrigerator around 6 inches, slapping around 80 gator teeth on the bottom of it, and dropping it square on top of your hand. So even though they are babies, they are a very dangerous animal. We suggest keeping your fingers out of their mouth. You oftentimes walk away without them afterwards. Now, of course, they're babies now, but they do grow up, and full-grown adult alligators will range anywhere between 10 to 16 feet. Now, those guys, they'll be putting down upwards of 2,000 pounds per square inch in their mouths. But since alligators never stop growing until the day they die, they all have the potential to reach our current world record. Now, if you guys are interested in seeing that, right in front of the bait shack here, we do have a 2D replica hung out right down there on the ground. He's a big metal outline, you can't miss him. And over there underneath the exit ramp, there's a 3D replica stuck right up on the wall. Now, they are both representations of that world record. Like I said, from tip to tip, he was 19 feet 2 inches. He weighed somewhere around 1,500 pounds. And when he stood up to walk, the top parts of his back were somewhere around 5 feet off of the ground. So he was, by all accounts, a very, very lazy animal. But you'll also notice that, they're a very big animal, but they are very lazy. And kind of looking around, you'll notice they're not moving a lot, and if they are, it's mostly just kind of drifting from point A to point B. But when they are serious about it, alligators have been clocked on land around 15 to 20 miles an hour. They've actually been clocked in the water at 25 miles an hour. Now, I personally, I don't move nearly that fast. Our Olympic sprinters, they run on land around 16 to 17 miles an hour. And Michael Phelps at his fastest was clocked at 8.6. So your chances of getting away are relatively slim to none. Right now, I have heard, however, that there is a special pattern you can use to run to get away from an alligator. Does anybody out there know what it is? That's right, I heard that from a couple people. You guys want to zigzag. But let me tell you a little something about the zigzag theory. Now that kind of came about, we decided there were just one too many tourists down here in the Sunshine State. So we had to pick you off one by one. Now the best way to do that, we'll just say me and, any one of you guys are out here swimming or fishing and we come across an alligator, well, I will encourage you to run in that zigzag pattern. I, on the other hand, am going to book it in a straight line back to my car. So the way that it works, well, you deal with the alligator's lateral movements, kind of hop around from foot to foot. I am going to get away scot-free, and you are much more likely to be lunch. Now, I know that it's a little bit mean, we call it the buddy system, and you got to bear in mind, guys, you do not necessarily have to be the fastest, you do have to be a little faster than the slowest sometimes. And I'm going to see if I can't get some of my alligator's attentions over here. It's getting a little bit cold, so this might be a little bit more difficult. But regardless of their length, alligators can actually jump it vertically out of the water. Now, like I said, they're being a little bit lazy. So let's see what I can encourage out of them over here. getting them to jump just a little bit, but they do all have the potential to get their full length. It requires quite a bit of energy. So right now, as it's starting to get a little bit cold, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to get them to do this for me. But they all have the potential to do it. So that means if we had our world record alligator, he could actually start over at that side of the pond, come over here at 25 miles an hour, jump up, grab one of you guys off the railing, and be down at the other end. Before any of us knew what happened. Right, from that railing down to the water is only about 14 feet. So he would still potentially have about 5 feet to go. Say a really good thing we don't have that record, right? Yeah, I tend to agree with you. There'd be no way I'd be this close. Are you kidding me? Now, I did mention that we keep our alligators right around 5 feet, which are what the size of some of these bigger guys that came out into the water for me are. Now, at that point, we go ahead and send them out to zoos and similar facilities across the United States. We have to do that at roughly the 5-foot mark. At somewhere around 6 to 6.5 feet is when they hit breeding age. And with breeding age will come a lot of territorial and oftentimes aggressive behavior. They have been known to go so far as to make snacks out of little ones from time to time, so there would be a lot of family friendliness issues down here. We send them out to those zoos because often they are a little bit better prepared to handle that breeding age than we are. Almost. Now, if you're paying really close attention, you might also notice that we have several turtles swimming around down here as well. Now, at the size of our turtles, they are large enough that these smaller alligators can't hurt them just yet. It is going to take roughly 800 pounds of force to break our smallest turtle's shell. And our strongest alligators, like these guys that are hopping out the water for me, they can produce upwards of 600 pounds per square inch, which by all means, that's very, very devastating. But it is still not quite enough to hurt one of those turtles. We've actually seen some of our larger alligators with our smaller turtles in their mouths, and they're just ending up with free rides around the pond for a little bit. It's usually about the worst that comes out of it. Alright. Come on, guys. I know you can jump a little bit better than that. I mean, you'll swim backwards for me at least at the start. Good job. Now, since I am on my last piece here, I'd like to remind you guys, if you want an opportunity to feed the alligators, you certainly can. Now, it's $3 for a bag of bait that has 4 pieces in it. You get up to 2 poles per bag to feed them with. Now, if you are feeling especially adventurous, you can get a picture taken while you are holding a live alligator. Now, pictures are $10, but you can cram as many people in there as you would like.